Let's talk about captioning. So, a traditional caption would be an AP style caption, the Associated Press, that is. So, you want to look at who, what, when, where, and why of the subject depicted in your photograph. Everything should be written in English in the present tense, including a date. It could be a phrase or a sentence. It should clarify the subject matter. Basically, or typically, they're written in two parts. The first sentence describes the subject, the action depicted in the image, while the next sentence gives context to the image. So that's a little dull sometimes for travel photography or even Instagram posts. So you might want to go beyond that and think about the narrative, the long form. You're going to include a story, maybe a backstory, a historical piece of information, additional information that your viewer isn't getting just by looking at the photograph. You want to hold them on your image longer by giving them something to look at. When you're making or writing up these captions, it's going to be a week later, maybe 2 weeks later sometimes. You're not going to remember the info, so be sure to have that notebook handy and take down proper spellings of people's names and places. A lot of times I'll photograph the place name if there's a plaque or something like that. That'll help me as well. But if not, write it down. You can go back and look up places pretty easily on the internet to get proper spellings, but the people, you're never going to find that again. And if you're really way far off on, the place, you'll never find that again either. And it's also important, like I can never remember week to week where I was. So I might have been in the central business district one day and then down in, the garden district the next or the arts district. So like make notes of where you are each day. Get the proper spelling. And then if you're photographing people, that's a good time to get a model release. You might not need it for the type of photography you're doing, but you never know how you might be able to use that info. So if you can possibly gather a model release, now is the time to do it. Impossible to go back and find these people. So, record this information into a notebook for yourself. You can do audio recordings on your phones nowadays. So if you're not into writing it down, just make a note, dictate it. Depending on your audience, sometimes you may want to include some technical info. So if you're like talking to photographers, tell them what camera you're using, what your settings were, what apps you might have used, whatever is appropriate. If you're doing a cooking type stuff, tell them what tools you use to, cut up that veggie, the location and all that fun stuff. Write a mini review even. If you're at a restaurant, that's a great time to do a mini review. So think about where you are. If you are photographing food or a drink and you can get a recipe, that would add to the story as well. So capture people's imagination through your captioning. Be sure to use your spell check, if nothing worse than having improper spelling, and make sure your punctuation is kind of decent. Have someone look things over if you need to. If someone says also, hey, this is wrong, go back and fix it. So don't just say exactly what's happening in the photograph. Give us a little bit more. If there's acronyms, SPE, for example, Society of Photographic Education, write that out. Let people know what it is. They might not be part of our group. Quotes are great. Add a quote to get people thinking. You can embed your captions into your digital files, into the metadata. And think about your hashtags and taglines that you're working on also. Those are important. And then if you want to get your viewers involved, ask them a question. So I grabbed some images off of Instagram and I want to look at the captions. Some of them I want to look at the hashtags. So let's start with this first image. It's from the New York Times. It asks a question in the place of the caption. Where in the world are we? Asking a question, getting your viewer involved is a great way to build a following. Okay, so next up is Pedro McBride. There is nothing quite like being in the presence of the African wild dog. They are incredibly social, fierce, and elusive. And every animal in the area is on anxious pins and needles, humans included. This pack hunted an antelope to exhaustion at sunset, then defended the kill from hyenas, a leopard, and even a female lion. And then he hashtags a variety of things. Apparently my dog is bothered by this as well. So here's Ted Forbes' caption. Hanging at Mayaka at Clyde Bookshire and his assistant Paul. Clyde has a Claude Monet vibe going on sometimes. Very cool. Well, that's a great caption. He's referencing a piece of history. and comparing Clyde with that piece of history. So it gets people thinking and looking even deeper into the photograph. Now we have Katrin Eisman, and she's photographing at Pride 2018 in New York City. It happens the entire month of June. Katrin writes, "Diversity, music, confetti, and pride for all who love and respect one another." And then she has 16 comments in here, and she follows up in one of the comments saying, uh, "Thank you. The entire scene was overwhelming, so I concentrated on finding a good background and then waited for the scene to appear. It helps that I'm taller than average." So she's got a little humor in there, and she's telling a little bit about how she made this shot. And it is a fabulous shot. So think about that, find that good background and wait for the action to happen in front of you. So Katrin has it going on. She's an educator and a great photographer and a Sony representative. So Shane Wynn is a fantastic photographer out of Northeast Ohio. I've known her for about 20 years, and she just keeps getting better. And her Instagram is pretty fun to follow. So Shane says for this shot, "And now for my annual Mother's Day service announcement. Remember to shamelessly exploit your children today. Happy Mother's Day." So a little playful, a little fun. She's got the kids there working on her. So how can you go wrong with this shot? So this is Van Life magazine. "It's so difficult to drive for long when the landscape is breathtaking. You always find yourself parking and taking pictures. Which was the most beautiful road you have ever seen?" So once again, engaging the audience by asking a question. And up top, he's tagging his location. So if you guys aren't tagging your location and you're not putting it in your caption, tag it. That's another way to let people know where you are. Fantastic shot here. So this is one of my former students and fabulous wedding photographer, KMH Photo. So this is a great way for promotional purposes to caption. "Finishing up an album for these longtime partners in crime today. Venue." And then at the Marriott events, planner. So she's hitting everyone that's important. Simply Weddings, hair and makeup, and floral. So she's hitting all of the people that help put this day together for these people. So it's a great promotion for everyone involved. And that's something you guys can do when you team up with people. They'll promote your photography, you promote their design, hair, makeup, whatever. So keep that in mind. Another way to grow your followers. Partner up with people. Do you guys follow the Doggist? You should. These are just funny. So this is Rue, toy poodle, 10-month-old, East Cooper Avenue, Aspen, Colorado. "We have a cockatoo named Poker Bill. They lick each other. Our other dogs hate him." Now, I just think that's a hysterical caption, and you can just see that that dog is so darn pampered. Take a look at some of these other images. The Doggist goes all over and just makes these awesome dog portraits, and they're just fun. So this is a very descriptive caption. It tells a story as well as location and history. So this was in the Times Magazine. "The ground floor space at 94 Prince Street has housed a bar since the mid-19th century, making it one of New York's oldest continuously operating places to drink. It became Finelli's Cafe in 1922, having been purchased by the former boxer Michael Finelli, who was still running it when artists and galleries began moving into the neighborhood in the early 70s. As Soho became more and more populated by galleries and artists, Finelli remained a popular meeting place. It would outlast other iconic artist hangouts like Max's Kansas City, which opened in 1965 and closed in 1981. After Finelli died in the early 80s, his family sold 94 Prince Street to Hans No. Two kinds of artists came, he said. One was local people, they were not successful artists, between the bar and drinking beer and making paintings. So, tell us a story. I like that one. So what could be better than this? First, the video captures you, and I encourage you guys to start playing with your images. You can do little videos, you can do those loops and jumps and back and forth thingies. Anyway, so Meet Curator, one of my favorite posters. So cheese fountain, anyone? Just say when. I would take it all. Thank you for sharing this. And then credit to Nonstop Eats. Waterfall of cheese whiz on cheesesteaks. So notice he's hitting cheesesteaks, Boost Philly, Feast with West, The meat curator himself, cheesesteak. So all really good hashtags for this image. And boy, does that make me want a cheesesteak right now. So let's finish up this video with the Shiba Inu. How could you pass this one up? They are the cutest little dogs. Too bad their personalities are so quirky. But anyways, I hope this video helped you out with your captioning, gave you some ideas, and I really want you to focus on that this week. Think of appropriate hashtags, think up funny hashtags, work on your spelling, work on your punctuation, and captivate us.